The Senate will come to order. The Secretary will call the roll.
Senator Buck. Senator Cannizzaro. Senator Daley. Senator Dagnotte. Senator Dondera-Loop. Senator Flores. Senator Goycochea. Senator Hammond. Senator Hansen. Senator Harris. Senator Krasner. Senator Lang. Senator Neal. Senator Wynn. Senator Orenshaw. Senator Pizzina. Senator Scheibel. Senator Seifers-Gansert. Senator Spearman. Senator Stone. Senator Titus.
Let the record reflect there are 21 senators present. Please rise for the prayer by Pastor Garvin Jarvis of the Living Stones Church here in Carson City, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
God, it's no formality to stand before all of these senators and to pray for them. It's commanded by you because you have said in Scripture that requests for help, prayers, appeals, and thanksgivings be made for all people and all who are in high positions. You are clear why these prayers are made, so that we would live in peace, that you would bless the decisions they make and their efforts, and that through this knowledge of God would be made known to all as you respond to these requests. All Christians are called to pray for these leaders, in groups and in private, and it's my joy to pray with them in person. And so I ask you to grant the very things that you call us to approach you with. I pray that you would help these senators in every capacity, mental, physical, emotional, and relational, to excel in their positions and their representation of the members of our state. I pray that you would establish the work of their hands. I appeal for them and on their behalf that whatever they are facing personally and professionally, it would be overseen and directed by your sovereign rule. And I thank you for these senators and for the staff that diligently serves our state. Through these, the leaders you have given us, bring peace and stability in all facets of life to Nevada. I bring them before you, confident in your kindness to hear this prayer and to be with them today as they go about the task at hand. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order of Business 3, reading and approval of the journal. By previous order of the Senate, the reading of the journal is dispensed with, and the President and Secretary are authorized to make the necessary corrections and additions. Order of Business 4, reports of committees.
Mr. President, your Committee on Commerce and Labor, to which are referred Assembly Bills numbers 251 and 318, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation do pass. Signed, Senator Pat Spearman, Chair. Mr. President, your Committee on Education, to which are referred Assembly Bills numbers 274, 282, and 372 has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation do pass. Also, your Committee on Education, to which were referred Assembly Bills numbers 164 and 185, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. Signed, Senator Roberta Lang, Chair. Mr. President, your Committee on Finance, to which was re-referred Senate Bill number 367, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation do pass and as amended. Also, your Committee on Finance, to which was referred Senate Bill number 339, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. Also, your Committee on Finance, to which was re-referred Senate Bill number 282, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. Signed, Senator Marilyn Dondera-Loop, Chair. Mr. President, your Committee on Government Affairs, to which were referred Assembly Bills numbers 3, 18, 36, 44, 82, 189, and 219, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation do pass. Signed, Senator Edgar Flores, Chair. Mr. President, your Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, to which was referred Assembly Bill number 56, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. Also, your Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, to which were referred Assembly Bills numbers 359, 407, 426, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation do pass. Signed, Senator Dallas Harris, Chair. Mr. President, your Committee on Health and Human Services, to which were referred Assembly Bills numbers 11, 265, and 311, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation do pass. Signed, Senator Fabian Dagnotte, Chair. Mr. President, your Committee on Judiciary, to which were referred Senate Bill numbers 449, and Assembly Bills numbers 32, 76, 275, 291, and 350 has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation do pass. Also, your Committee on Judiciary, to which are referred Assembly Bills numbers 335, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. Signed, Senator Melanie Scheibel, Chair. End of messages.
Order of Business 5, messages from the Governor.
Office of the Governor, May 18th, 2023, to the Honorable Nicole Canizaro, Majority Leader of the Nevada State Senate, Nevada Legislature, 401 South Carson Street, Carson City, Nevada, 89701. Dear Leader Canizaro, I'm returning Senate Bill number 171 to the 82nd session of the Nevada Legislature without my approval, accompanied by my letters of objection. Sincerely, Joe Lombardo, Governor of Nevada. End of messages.
Order of Business 6, messages from the Assembly.
Assembly Chamber, Carson City, May 15th, 2023. To the Honorable the Senate, I have the honor to inform your honorable body that the Assembly on this day passed Senate Bills numbers 37, 55, 62, and 67. Signed, Susan Furlong, Chief Clerk of the Assembly. End of messages.
Order of Business 8, waivers and exemptions.
Waiver of joint standing rules, a waiver requested by Senator Canizaro for Senate Bill 496 to waive subsection 1 of Joint Standing Rule 14.2 and subsections 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Joint Standing Rule 14.3 has been granted effective May 15th, 2023. Signed, Senator Nicole Canizaro, Senate Majority Leader, and Assemblyman Steve Yeager, Speaker of the Assembly. Notice of exemption, Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the exemption of Senate Bill 440. Signed, Sarah Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division. Notice of exemption, May 15th, 2023. The Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the eligibility for exemption of Senate Bill number 368. Signed, Sarah Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division. Notice of exemption, May 16th, 2023. The Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the eligibility for exemption of Senate Bill number 82. Signed, Sarah Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division. Notice of exemption, May 17th, 2023. The Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the eligibility for exemption of Senate Bill number 66. Signed, Sarah Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division. End of exemptions.
Order of Business 9, motions, resolutions, and notices. Senator Canizaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we near the close of the 81st legislative session and in accordance with Senate Standing Rule number 91, I am giving notice that the Senate will be suspending some of its standing rules to accommodate the movement of bills and joint resolutions out of the Senate in a timely manner. On Monday, I will move that all necessary rules be suspended and that bills and resolutions be placed in the appropriate file for consideration the same day they are reported out of committee, that bills and resolutions amended on final passage or adoption be voted immediately after adoption of the amendment without waiting for the reprint, and that some measures be immediately transmitted to the Assembly. These suspensions will generate multiple floor agendas, and these agendas may be considered one right after the other with no recess in between.
Very good. Senator Canizaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that vetoed Senate Bill number 171 be made a special order of business for Monday, May 29th, 2023 at 11:15 a.m.
Have you heard the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senator Canizaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bills number 78 through 215 be taken from their positions on general file and placed on general file for the next legislative day.
If there are no objections, so ordered.
Assembly Joint Resolution 6, introduced by Assemblyman Watts, etc., and Senators Harris, etc., proposes to amend the Nevada Constitution, adopt the National Popular Vote Compact. End of resolution.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Assembly Joint Resolution 6 proposes to amend the Nevada Constitution to adopt the National Popular Vote Compact. If the compact becomes effective through adoption by states cumulatively possessing a majority of electoral votes, the presidential electors in this state must, with limited exception, mark their presidential elector ballots for the National Popular Vote winner. If there is a tie in the national popular vote, the presidential electors must mark their ballots for the winner of the popular vote in Nevada. The proposed constitutional amendment also provides that Nevada may withdraw from and rejoin the compact through statute.
Senator Neal.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I rise in opposition to AJR 6. I see this measure as disrupting state-based federalism, and I want to guard against responding to a moment in time without regard to the history of the system. I respect my colleague and colleagues in the other house and in this house, and I believe that the colleague who moved this, I think he's thoughtful and a fierce advocate. There are only 5 instances in which the national popular vote didn't align with who won the electoral college, and they were very distinct. The Supreme Court ruled on the issue of in 2020 of the faithless electors, and it was unusual. It was the first time that we've ever had faithless electors in 1 year, and that was in 2016. However, the Supreme Court in Shafalo versus Washington stated that in Article 2, Section 1, that the 12th Amendment, as explained, makes sure that a state that appoints electors are committed to the vote for the party's presidential candidate. Additionally, the framers understood that the instruments for expressing the will of those who selected them is not independent. They're not independent agents authorized to express their own judgment. I do believe that democracy is under attack. I also believe that there has been a clear movement of factions in this nation who are trying to unhinge our electoral system as it stands. However, I struggle with reacting to a moment in time in 2016 and the movement that was attempted in the 2020 election. I believe that this nation is stronger than what we believe. We watched our nation get rocked in the balance for power of the presidency when Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 2.8 million, and then Trump won the electoral college. Our nation was then rocked 16 years before in Gore versus Bush election in 2000. And the Supreme Court weighed in that the state's legislative power to select the manner for appointing electors is plenary. It may, if it so chooses, select the electors itself, which indeed was the manner used by the state legislatures in several states for many years after the framing of our Constitution. Prior to that, the nation had been faced with this issue had not been faced with this issue for 112 years before the Bush election in 2000, and that was when Benjamin Harrison ran against Grover Cleveland in 1888. I see these cases as lessons to wake up our conscience and to not take our democracy for granted and to fight for it. Each instance has had an effect on our nation to push us out of our comfortable positions of watching democracy as if it would always be handed to us, and brought us to a mindset that it was something worth fighting for. These moments where we have battled for America open the eyes and the ears of our young people into battle mode for America, that they needed to believe in a democracy that they may have gotten comfortable in and didn't recognize that it was something that didn't just stand still in our future, but something that had to continue to be battled over. The nation that I want to see uses its energy to start to right side this nation. And I think we tried to move in that direction with the election of Biden. I also see that we will engage in a super fight in 2024. And I want our nation to be in a position to fight for our democracy and to find and hold it sacred to their heart, and that for their souls to be triggered in the fights that we had ahead of us. As we watch the agenda being played that is attempting to decapitate our culture, history, and truth about our nation, as we watch from Florida enact to uneducate and strip an entire state of its ability to critically think, I am watching and hoping that we are building our plan of attack to crush this agenda. I want federalism. I want to be in the battle to fight for it and to educate our young people. We have a Supreme Court case, but in 2020, that pretty much just set forth that Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the United States says that we have the power, plenary power as a state, to align our electors with the wills of our, to align our electors with the will of the state. I'm not sure we should act on anomalies where we have plenary power already.
Senator Severs-Ganser.
Thank you, Mr. President. While reasonable people may disagree as to whether the national popular vote should dictate the ultimate winners of the presidential and vice presidential electoral contests, this is a notion that does not reflect the delicately balanced system of government that ensued from the larger debate at the Constitutional Convention of 1787 between supporters of the Virginia Plan and those of the New Jersey Plan, in which the interests of small states were pitted against the interests of large states. The result was a compromise government that tempered the proposal outlined by James Madison's Virginia Plan, favoring large states by granting vast powers to a new federal government, with the proposal forwarded by the New Jersey delegate William Patterson favoring small states by allowing each state to have one vote in Congress regardless of the state's population. The agreement, which when enacted would require a signatory small states electoral delegates to vote in support of the candidate for president and vice president who win the national popular vote, could leave a sparsely populated western state like Nevada with a greatly diminished voice in the outcome of national electoral contests. For these reasons, and in the best interest of the great state of Nevada, I vetoed this bill and returned it to my signature without my signature approval. Sincerely, Governor Steve Sisolak. That was the veto message from 2019 of Assembly Bill 186. This resolution is a reinvention of AB 186 that was vetoed by the then Governor Steve Sisolak, a Democrat. And, you know, I rise in opposition to this resolution because, as was stated, this resolution would severely diminish the voices of Nevadans. And in 2021, as a reminder, we actually voted to move our presidential now primary, it was a caucus, but primary, to the second Tuesday in February, which we'll have in 2024. So we want to be early, and the reason we want to be early in the process of electing a president and vice president is because we want to make sure our voices are heard. And if you recall back in 2020, we had so many people visit us here in Nevada, including in this legislative building, such as Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar, Tom Steyer, Eric Garcetti. So many candidates came and visited us because of the position that we sit in as far as our primary. And we want to make sure that, again, our voices are heard, that these candidates come and visit us early and continue to visit us all the way through the general election. So for these reasons, I'm opposed to AJR 6. Thank you.
Senator Krasner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also stand in opposition to AJR 6. AJR 6 is an attempt to circumvent the United States Constitution. Established in Article 2, Section 1 of the United States Constitution, the Electoral College is the process which elects the President and the Vice President of the United States. Further, if you checked your copy of the United States Constitution, which you keep in your purse or pocket, you would know that Article 5 gives us the process from our founding fathers to amend the United States Constitution. If we're not happy with what the United States Constitution says, we use one of the 4 ways enumerated in the Constitution to amend it. Further, if you look at the Federalist Papers, number 68, Alexander Hamilton, under the pseudonym of Plubius, carefully called out the reasoning for why we must have the Electoral College. I urge my colleagues to vote no. Thank you.
Senator Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of AJR 6. I just want to put a couple of facts and I think important thoughts on the record. First of all, AJR 6 does not, in fact, circumvent the Constitution. We as a legislature have the right to decide how our electoral votes will be conducted. There are some states that have decided they're going to give them away by proportion. There are some states like ours that have a system where we give all of our electoral votes to whoever wins the, wait for it, popular vote in the state of Nevada. We can choose, within the confines of the Constitution, to give our electoral votes to whoever wins the popular vote nationwide. Furthermore, we also, under the Constitution have the right to enter into an interstate compact. There's no issue there. Both of those are also enshrined in the Constitution, just like the Electoral College. There are some who believe that we would not be visited by presidential candidates if we got rid of the Electoral College or passed the National Popular Vote Compact. I don't believe that is true, and even so, this is not a popularity contest, it's democracy. Here in Nevada, we have 2 population centers. Would any governor candidate dare skip the rules in hopes of just winning Clark County? That's a foolish approach. We all know that. And if we never had the Electoral College, who amongst us would stand up and argue that that's what we should put in place instead of the popular vote? We elect every other office under the sun using the popular vote. The presidency is no different. I am not just a Nevadan. I am also a gay black woman. Those interests are important as well. I may not have the same interest as our colleagues who ranch or colleagues who own a small business. Those will have to be taken into account. They should be taken into account. Throughout my life, I've lived in 3 different states. Why in the heck would my vote for president count differently depending on where I am on any given day or in my life's journey? If more people in this country want to elect someone that you don't necessarily want to elect, that's called democracy. That is how our system should work. And you know, I'm not going to argue about the constitutional basis for it. It made sense. Back when our Constitution was put forward and we're having all these discussions, if you were born in Nevada, you were likely to live and die in Nevada. But that is not the world in which we live. And so it is incumbent upon us to take the tools in the Constitution, yes, that were given to us, and make our democracy a little bit more perfect. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in strong opposition to AJR 6, and I appreciate my colleague from Senate District 4 mentioning that in our history there has been 5 different times where the president was chosen not by and did not win the popular vote. And one of those that she did not mention happened in 1860. At that time, Lincoln won the election in Electoral College landslide with 180 of the electoral votes, but he only secured 40% of the popular vote. Imagine where our country would be today had Lincoln not become a president. I urge my colleagues to not vote for AJR 6. Thank you.
Senator Neal. Nope. Okay, any other further remarks? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 12. The noes are 9. AJR 6 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senator Lang has approved the addition of Senators Buck, Hammond, Orenshaw, and Seaver-Scansert as primary sponsors to Senate Bill 438. Senator Lang has approved the addition of Senators Daley, Pizzina, and Spearman and Krasner as primary sponsors to Senate Bill 496. Senator Lang has approved the addition of Senator Donyate as a co-sponsor on Senate Bill 496. Senator Titus has approved the addition of Senator Donyate as a primary sponsor on Senate Bill 241. Senator Titus has approved the addition of Senators Lang, Wynn, and Stone as co-sponsors on 241. That concludes Order Business 9.
Order of Business 10, introduction, first reading, and reference.
Senate Bill 499, introduced by the Senate Committee on Finance, revises provisions governing expenditures from the endowment account established in the State General Fund related to the Nevada College Savings Program. End of bill.
Senator Dondera-Lupe.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to refer Senate Bill 499 to the Committee on Finance.
Senator Dondera-Lupe has referred SB 499 to the Finance Committee. Are there any objections? If not, so ordered.
Senate Bill 500, introduced by the Senate Committee on Finance, makes appropriations to the Department of Education for the replacement of computer hardware and associated software. End of bill.
Senator Dondera-Lupe.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 500 be referred to Finance.
Senator Dondera-Lupe has referred SB 500 to the Finance Committee. Are there any objections? If not, so ordered.
Senate Bill 501, introduced by the Senate Committee on Finance, establishes for the 2023-2025 biennium the subsidies to be paid to the Public Employees Benefits Program for insurance for certain active and retired public officers and employees. End of bill.
Senator Dondera-Lupe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 501 be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Senator Dondera-Lupe has referred SB 501 to the Finance Committee. Are there any objections? If not, so ordered.
That concludes Order Business 10.
Order of Business 12, second reading.
Senate Bill 285, introduced by Senators Dondera-Lupe, et cetera, and Assemblyman Yeager, et cetera, makes an appropriation for civics education programs. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
SB 285 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 17, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Judiciary, revises provisions relating to penalties for driving under the influence of alcohol or a controlled substance. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 17 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 68, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Judiciary, revises provisions governing the assessment imposed on certain counties for the operation of a regional facility for the treatment and rehabilitation of children. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 68 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 110, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor, makes revisions governing the dispensing and delivery of certain dialysate drugs and devices used to perform dialysis. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 110 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 124, introduced by Assemblywoman Hardy, revises provisions governing the renewal of a license as an osteopathic physician or physician assistant. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 124 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 183, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Judiciary, revises provisions relating to the protection of children from commercial sexual exploitation. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 183 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 206, introduced by Assemblywoman Brown May, revises provisions governing the Nevada Commission for Persons who are Deaf and Hard of Hearing. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 206 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 223, introduced by Assemblyman Carter, et cetera, and Senator Wynn, revises requirements relating to collection agencies. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 223 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 289, introduced by Assemblyman Carter, et cetera, and Senator Pizzina, enacts provisions relating to the natural organic reduction of human remains. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 289 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 298, introduced by Assemblywoman Howdigi, revises provisions governing housing. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 298 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 401, introduced by Assemblywoman Howdigi, revises provisions governing schools of nursing. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 401 01 is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 464, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes an appropriation to the legislative fund for costs relating to anticipated building renovations and construction. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 under Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 464 is ordered to the general file.
That concludes Order Business 12.
Order Business 13, general file.
Senate Bill 273, introduced by Senators Lang, et cetera, and Assemblyman Nguyen, et cetera, changes the name of the Nevada State College to the Nevada State University. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 546, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Amendment number 546 to Senate Bill 273 amends Section 2 to remove a reference to Sierra Nevada College, as that institution was acquired by the University of Nevada, Reno and no longer exists.
I believe you also have to dispense with the reading.
Sorry, I moved to dispense with the reading of the
Okay,
amendment.
if there's no objections, so ordered. Senator Dondero Loop, anything else? Okay. You've heard the motion. Oh, yes, I believe you have to move to adopt the.
I'll get with the program. It's almost day 120. I move to dispense with the motion. Oh, move to adopt the motion. Now I'm really messed up. I move to adopt the amendment.
Thank you. All right, you've heard the motion. Any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Let's see, SB 273 is ordered, reprinted, engrossed, and to the general file.
Senate Bill 445, introduced by the Senate Committee on Finance, revises provisions governing emergency medical services. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 4, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2023. End of bill.
Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 445 authorizes the Division of Public and Behavioral Health of the Department of Health and Human Services to use money generated from certain fees, administrative penalties, and legislative appropriations to create and maintain an information system containing the records of individuals who have completed certain training programs for emergency medical services personnel. The bill also provides that revenue from certain fees related to the permits for emergency vehicles must be accounted for separately and do not revert back to the state general fund at the end of any fiscal year.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 18. The noes are 3. SB 445 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 2, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, revises provisions relating to public safety. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 2, end of subsection 2, end of bill.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 2 authorizes vehicles used by a local government agency for the construction, maintenance, or repair of highways and vehicles used by contractors of a local government agency to aid motorists or mitigate traffic incidents to be equipped with tail lamps that emit non-flashing blue light, and authorizes the use of such lamps under certain conditions. Additionally, the bill requires the driver of a vehicle to take certain precautions when approaching such a vehicle that is making use of its blue tail lamps. The bill is effective as of October 1st, 2023.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21. The noes are 0. AB 2 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 19, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Natural Resources, revises provisions relating to water. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 5, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2023. End of bill.
Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 19, Assembly Bill 19, expands and entitles eligible and makes eligible to apply for grants from the Channel Clearance Maintenance, Restoration, Surveying, and Monumenting Program to include tribal governments. The bill also authorizes officers and employees of a tribal government to apply for a position of state water rights surveyor, regardless of whether the officer or employee is a professional engineer or professional land surveyor, but any certificate issued must include a restriction limiting those officers and employees to work performed only on for the tribal government.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, the noes are 0. AB 19 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 21, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor, revises provisions related to persons engaged in the transmission of money and certain related activities. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows. Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 85, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2023. End of bill.
Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 21 makes various changes to provisions governing persons engaged in the transmission of money. Among other things, the bill revises the powers and duties of the Commissioner of Financial Institutions with respect to the licensure and regulation of persons engaged in the business of money transmissions, exempts certain persons from the provisions governing money transmissions, imposes certain requirements and restrictions on applicants for a license, licensees, authorized delegates, key individuals, and persons seeking to acquire control of a licensee, sets forth certain requirements for transactions involving money transmission, revises provisions related to the suspension, revocation, or denial of a renewal of a license, and provides for certain penalties for violations of the provisions governing money transmission.
Are there any remarks on the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21. The noes are 0. AB 21 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 24, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Health and Human Services, revises the membership of the Committee on Emergency Medical Services. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows. Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2023. End of bill.
Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 24 adds 2 members to the Committee on Emergency Medical Services. One member will be employed or by or serve as a volunteer in a local government agency, and the other one shall be employed or by or volunteer with an agency, organization, or other operator that provides emergency services on tribal land.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, the noes are 0. AB 24 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 40, introduced by Health and Human Services, revises provisions related to inspections of food establishments. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows. Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 4, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2023. End of bill.
Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 40 authorizes the inclusion of electronic mail address in an application to a health authority for a permit to operate a food establishment by which the health facility may communicate with the applicant and send any inspection report form or other notice.
Are there any remarks on the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, the noes are 0. AB 40 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 43, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Education, revises provisions relating to school emergency operations plans. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows. Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 4, this act becomes effective upon passage and approval. End of bill.
Senator Flores.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 43 revises several dates related to school emergency operation plans. Specifically, each development committee for such plans must provide an update plan to the Board of Trustees of school district or to the governing body of a charter school or private school, as applicable, on or before August 1 of each year. The bill further changes from July 1 to August 15 the date by which these entities must submit the plan of the Division of Emergency Management of Office of Military and for private schools to public safety agencies and emergency management organizations. Finally, the chief of the Division of Emergency Management must report certain compliance information to the Superintendent of Public Instruction of Nevada's Department of Education on or before November 15 rather than August 15.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, the noes are 0. AB 43 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 47, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, revises provisions governing the operation of off-highway vehicles. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows. Section 1 and to Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. End of bill.
Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 47 provides that a governmental entity is not prohibited from constructing, operating, or maintaining a trail for use by off-highway vehicles that is adjacent to or near a highway, including, without limitation, a paved highway.
Any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, the noes are 0. AB 47 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 73, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Education, provides right of public school pupils to wear certain adornments at school graduation ceremonies. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows. Section 1 and to Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective upon passage and approval. End of bill.
Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 73 establishes that a public school pupil is entitled to wear traditional tribal regalia or recognize objects of religious or cultural significance as an adornment at a school graduation ceremony. The governing body of a public school may prohibit items that are likely to cause substantial disruption, and this bill outlines an appeal process for a pupil who is prohibited from wearing an item as an adornment. This is a good bill. I was denied that right when I was a high school student. I think that kids deserve the chance to show pride in who they are. And I encourage my colleagues to vote yes.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, noes are 0. AB 73 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
That concludes Order of Business 13 and the business of the desk for this legislative day.
Order of Business 16, remarks from the floor, introduction of guests. Senator Hansen.
Thanks, Mr. President. Just a quick reminder as the session winds down, the children at the in Oahe at the Duck Valley Indian Reservation are in desperate need of a new school. I'm not on any finance committees, but I want to keep that issue in front of everybody. I know Chairman Mason was here and several members of the Tribal Council were here last week. So just a friendly reminder that we can't let that one slip through the cracks. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know it's going to be tight, but Senate Judiciary will still be meeting at 1 p.m. today.
Senator Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to introduce a couple of folks who are up in the gallery. I'm going to start with Peter Grema. Peter, if you're up there, if you could just stand and, oh, there he is. Peter went to high school at West Career and Technical Academy. Last session, he interned for yours truly. He was born and raised in Las Vegas and is currently a law student at the University of Virginia. Graduated last year from UNLV. Go Rebels. After graduating from law school, he intends to work in Washington, D.C. for a few years before returning to Las Vegas, and for some reason or another wants to work on water and natural resources law. If you all could make him feel welcome. Thank you so much. Also, today, it is my honor and privilege to present a proclamation to Athletic Director James Dinkle and Head Coach Todd Thompson on behalf of the Nevada State Senate. If y'all could stand. There they are. Hello. We're here to honor and pay tribute to their remarkable Diamondbacks varsity girls flag football team, who not only triumphed as state champions, but also demonstrated unwavering resilience and strength in the face of unimaginable adversity. As we look back on their momentous season, it's impossible to overlook the profound impact that one individual had on the team. Sophomore and teammate Ashari Hughes was playing flag football for Desert Oasis High School on January 5th of this year when she tragically collapsed and passed away. Yet, in the face of this heartache, the team made a choice to honor the memory of their fallen teammate by persevering and pursuing greatness. They channeled their grief into their performances, pushing themselves beyond their limits and leaving an indelible mark, raising the team to become the top-rated team in the state. This proclamation serves as a testament to the indomitable spirit, unity, and unwavering commitment that each member of this team has demonstrated throughout this season. And we have the proclamation here. I will present it to them as soon as floor is over. Thank you both for being here. Congratulations to our remarkable state champions. And if y'all could just give that team a round of applause. Thank you.
Senator Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to recognize a very special graduate, my daughter, Hannah. She is right now, as a part of her 5th grade promotion at Wasden Elementary School. So while I can't be there this morning, I know that her dad and the 2 grandpas are there celebrating her accomplishment in being a graduate of 5th grade. So thank you.
Senator Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate revenue will start at 1:15.
Senator Stone.
Thank you, Mr. President. We passed a bill today regarding the graduation regalia, and I want to report that I spoke with about 25 students that had a senior project that they had to call a legislator and discuss bills. And I want to tell you that these kids are very, very bright. We talked about a number of bills, and we talk about our education system, and we hear a lot of negativity. But I'm here to tell you that I interviewed a lot of very bright kids that have a very bright future in education in Nevada. And I want to thank those kids, and I want to thank their teachers for requiring such a project so we can get our kids civically involved at an early age so that maybe many of them will follow in our footsteps and be wonderful leaders here in the state of Nevada. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you, and I love you, to my wife, Regina. We celebrated our 22nd anniversary yesterday. It's not the first time that we spent our anniversary apart. She's put up with me being in this profession, if you will, for the past 28 years, including living 6 years apart. And as many of you know, you need a supportive spouse to allow us to do what we do, the citizen's business. I love my wife. I love this state. I love working with all of you. And I want to tell my wife, thank you for allowing me to be here to do the citizen's business. I love you.
Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of this body. Last week, we inducted 3 well-deserved members into the Senate Hall of Fame. Senator Hardy, during his acceptance speech, mentioned that he used to refer to Senator Renshaw as Norrenshaw because he voted no on his bills. I, too, have been accused of voting no on maybe too often, which made me think about the no votes. Certainly, approximately 80% of the legislation that is passed out of this body passes unanimous. Where there is a discrepancy, it may be along party lines. Other times, it's philosophical differences. Each of us in this building, in this chambers, represent about 105,000 registered voters, plus or minus 5% or so, all with unique but frequently similar needs. The key is that by recording our votes, there's transparency on where we stand on any particular legislation. To me, the real issue is not my transparent no votes, but instead, the unrecorded no votes on those bills and those votes that are unheard bills. You see, we have about 600 votes, plus or minus, bills that were introduced with only a couple hundred that have been voted on. But the real no vote is on those that never got a hearing and never got a public and transparent vote on this floor. I would argue that by doing so, there have been many more no votes, just not transparent, than I will ever cast in this body. Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me this moment, and I request that my comments be recorded in today's journal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other remarks? Senator Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd also like my earlier remarks to be included in the journal. Thank you.
Senator Krasner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would also like my previous remarks recorded in today's journal. Thank you.
Any other remarks? Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I would move that the Senate stand in adjournment until the hour of 11 a.m. on Friday, May 19th, 2023.
Heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.